Hi, I'm Candid Stanisci of NLL Lacrosse Talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 249 and 50. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. Sorry, phone ringing. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also all smart TVs. As usual, Gary Groob is with us. And we also have Kasey Beirnes. Kasey, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Don't mind the blank expression. Apparently, my computer says, nope, you're not going to see me. So
You
anyway.
look pretty good, Frank. You look pretty good from here.
I look real slim. I look real slim. Kasey, seriously, though, tell us first. We always ask, what brought you to lacrosse?
Oh, wow. That's right out of the gate. We're going into that. I'm kind of a different story. I'm going to say I'm a little bit different than the average person you probably have had on here. I was not a lacrosse player my entire life, like the majority of people that I played with. I was an avid baseball player throughout my early years, and I think it was about 12 years old when I went to a try lacrosse event in a school gym with some people, and I left the gym with the gentleman that was running it saying that you're playing lacrosse next year. So sure enough, I was getting sick of baseball like many people do, and decided, I think it was first year Bantam, that I would give lacrosse a try in the great town of Elora. And that was kind of how the story started. So my dad had definitely played a lot of lacrosse in his day, so I had a stick. It wasn't like it was brand new that I had no idea what was going on. It was just I was a baseball player at the time and took to changing that sport for my summer sport, which everyone stays away from it sometimes because of the heat in the summer, that everyone's like, we don't want to be in the arena another couple months of the year. But anyway, so yeah, I started at minor Bantam in Elora and went on and played my 4 years of minor, and then joined the junior club in for the Elora Mohawks, the junior B club here in town, and kind of expected that was going to be the end of my 5 years of junior, and thought lacrosse was done and walking off into the sunset. But it ended up actually extending for 16 more years after that. So it was kind of a different story. Like I said, I didn't have a stick in my hand since I was a kid, but joined late and avidly enjoyed every minute of playing, and became my true passion. Obviously, hockey. I was a decent hockey player at that time, not very good, but lacrosse became my priority, my focus, and the fun part of my life at that point.
We got a picture now. We don't have any sound. Now you have sound. You have sound. My computer's turning stuff off while I'm looking at the computer. Anyway, so the last 16 years. Tell us about that. Being a player, it's pretty easy, but I know you painted it as though you're unusual, but actually, in reality, there are a lot of men like you, a lot of people like you, women too as well, that once they get bitten by the bug, they run the full gamut, right? And what about the last 16 years? What kept you in it for those 16 years?
Yeah, so at the end of my junior career, I had a few phone calls and ended up getting drafted to the NLL, which I didn't know a lot about at that point, and decided that this was kind of a neat little adventure, an opportunity that not many people get, and took it upon myself to go try out. It was Columbus back in the day where I got drafted to, and yeah, went to the tryout with all these players that were so good and talented and smart, and basically took that as an opportunity to be a sponge and try to learn as much as I could in that short amount of time, with hopes that I could continue to play in. End up making the team. We had a very young team down in Columbus, which was a great opportunity as for me coming out of junior B lacrosse, and cut the roster, went on and played the year and loved every minute of it. I hadn't even been on an airplane, I think, before that year in my life. My first trip on an airplane happened to be a trip we were doing Columbus. I think it was to Calgary or something like that. And that was my first ever time traveling with a group of friends. And yeah, what's kept me here, Frank, obviously, is friendship. I think that probably comes across your podcast a lot, is the people in this sport are so giving and so caring that it has been basically essentially me. It's been my life for the last 35 years, probably now at this point. And the people that I associate my after hours with and everything, and friends and family now, a lot of it bases around lacrosse friends and people that I've had the opportunity to play with, people that have followed a bit of my career, people who have obviously been big supporters here in town. So I just love any opportunity for a conversation about lacrosse, and whether that's today's lacrosse, last year's lacrosse, or 20 years ago, what it was like. So just my 16 years, obviously I had a chance to start in Columbus for 2 years, and then that team folded and we moved to Arizona. Picked up with my girlfriend at the time on the second year and moved to Arizona. So for the 8 months, I ended up getting hurt the very first game and not playing all year. So that was kind of, to me, a bit of a blessing in disguise that we got to travel around Arizona, live the life, kind of like the Melrose place down there. And just another opportunity, another thing that this game has given me is that opportunity. And my girlfriend at the time is now my wife now of 16 years. So it's just been a key, and my kids are now getting involved with it. And that part is even more exciting than it is actually was playing, probably, is watching your kids succeed at the sport that you love and kind of have guided them a little bit along that line and path towards. So yeah, to me, it comes down to friendship. The 16 years, I don't know what other details, or if there's certain aspects you want me to get into, but I was definitely fortunate enough. So I did 2 years in Arizona. After that, I did 2 years in Minnesota, and then I got traded back to Toronto, which prolonged my career because I had kids at that point, or I was in the process of getting married and having kids, and being able to drive back and forth to your games and practices was a big change, and that gave me the ability to play 10 additional years in Toronto, which we all know every kid's, once you get into the league, Toronto beat the crap out of us many times back 6 years back. I was in Toronto, so when you can't beat them, join them is a big saying, and I was excited to join such a prolific franchise in Toronto. So, and then it became even more family, right? We're right back to almost playing junior lacrosse. We're friends, family. You're hanging out with after the game, and by the end of it, my kids were actually ball boys on the floor. So, kind of a full circle of 16 years. A lot happened in 16 years, but still very fortunate for every opportunity that was given to me for it.
Gary's holding a giant drill. So now
that's something, yeah.
And I want to use it to drill down on a few of the things that you just said.
Uh-oh.
Where do you want to start, Gary?
I actually want to start with the Junior B stuff. I want to talk about the Aloha Mohawks. And it's a pretty storied franchise over the years. 6 Founders Cups in their history, including this past year. But let's talk about years there, because the formation years, like you mentioned, you really weren't thinking about lacrosse being your future, and really it shaped you because you had a hell of a 5 years there. Only 108 games. You had 485 points, which obviously turned enough heads in the NLL to go, yeah, we need him, because it wasn't a big thing drafting Junior B. Junior A was where everybody come from.
Yeah, again, that my lack of information about the whole sport at that point was I was playing with my friends. That was my weekends, was going to the rink and practicing Wednesday nights at the Aloha Arena. As we were talking about before we came on here about the heat in the summer. The Aloha Arena gets pretty hot with the crowds that they get throughout the summer. So it was just probably 5 of my favorite years was playing there, because you are with your friends that you grew up with, you went to school with. We did have good success. We had great teams. When I was playing, I think we went to the Founders Cup 3 times. Did we win? No. But there was a couple years we probably should have, and just fell short. And then eventually I went back and coached one year. Actually, one of those Founders Cup years, the year I was hurt, I was mentioning there earlier, because I had nothing else to do in the summer. Why not go help coach the Mohawks? So jumped on as an assistant coach and was able to, we captured the Founders Cup that year. It's been great to watch that franchise, or this team, continue to build. And obviously they've had great success lately. It's to the point now, like obviously they've been very successful in Junior B. Hopefully some players are using this as a good platform to move to that Junior A level. I think that nowadays it's not very well known that if you're going to play Junior B, you're going to get plucked to go play in the NLL. I think that Junior A level is another echelon above. But I think there's a lot of kids in town here that have that ability to go. Yeah, we played in some great nights there, Gary, down at the Aloha Community Center. I remember we were in double overtime for the Ontario Championships against Wallaceburg, and it was so hot in the arena that the paint was coming off the railings. I remember walking out of the arena after people had black paint all over their face. So they had no idea. It was like paint chipped off. And we ended up losing in double overtime, but the heat and the atmosphere was something that you can't recreate.
Right. It's something I've never understood is why, as the years have gone along, that summer ball gets less and less people. To me, it's more exciting than anything that I catch in the winter. Whether it's MSL, whether it's OSL, whether it's Junior B, I love going, and I love the atmospheres of all of our kids growing up. And
we're fortunate enough here in Fergus Elora that we have a Junior C team and a Junior B team now, the Thistles and the Mohawks. It's hard enough to get a parking spot to go to those games on a regular season game. To me, it's been created the culture. We call it's the religion of lacrosse here in Center Wellington, that people, it's like going to church, right? Oh, it's Sunday night. We got a Mohawk game. Let's all go. And kids are really buying into the whole atmosphere of it. And in the end of it, it's really making our youth program strive, because they're all seeing this successful and going to the arena at night and seeing our Junior C Thistles on a regular season game will probably pull 500 or 600 people. Not a lot of summer teams can say that's a regular occurrence in their arena, but obviously in this town, it's such a great atmosphere and everyone wants to be a part of it. So it's been good that my kids get to now go see what these junior kids are, and they're already talking about going, what's that next level and how do I get to play with either the green helmet or the yellow helmet. So definitely two distinctive jersey sets around town. It's good.
There's a challenge, right?
It's funny.
Oh, sorry, Gary, I just wanted to say that, to add the challenge of summer lacrosse for both of you. I'm sure you're aware that a lot of the older arenas aren't really, like hockey doesn't consider air conditioning, if you know what I'm getting at. So some of the buildings don't work that well in the summer as far as maintaining a cool temperature.
Oh, they definitely, none of our buildings around here are set for air condition. You're going there with your smallest t-shirt on and your shortest shorts, because you know it's going to be hot. And it's an issue in our facility sometimes because it's so hot and the amount of people that the floor starts sweating that anyways, there's been a renovation at the Elora Arena and it seems to have been pretty good since. Thankfully, we went through many nights where it was like a slip and slide. Every time you ran across one of those painted lines, you were ass over tea kettle and just get up and keep on going.
Yeah, back in the day, that's where you played. You played on concrete.
Yeah.
Right? The carpet is something the NLL introduced. Before that, everybody played on concrete.
Yeah, it definitely, you're starting to see some minor sports arenas that are doing it, but a lot of it is because MSL teams are there or their junior teams are starting to implement a bit of turf. We're definitely not at that area here yet in Center Wellington, but hopefully at some point it changes the game to me and some pros and some cons. So yeah, I do like it. Obviously a bit of comfort and on the knees, but it actually hurts more to fall on turf by the time you get a bit of a rug burn than it does a slippery old concrete floor where you just slide and leave your snail trail behind you and away you go.
The other thing I like about concrete is the sound is better. The wax, you can hear the wax much clearer than you can with the carpet on the ground.
You can, and to me, it makes it a faster game because those off the backboards and those balls are rolling, they're gone, right? So to me, it speeds it up a bunch, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad, depends what kind of player you are.
Apologize for the interruption.
It's funny though, because you talk about the 500 people out for a game. It reminds me a lot of the Orangeville situation where Friday nights and the way everybody goes, the entire town is in there and it's to be seen and see the game as well, and just the community and a lot of the players that come, they were actually more thrilled about making the Junior A team there in Orangeville than being drafted in the NLL. And it sounds like the Elora site anyway.
Yeah, and the Orangeville Arena really from my house is only a half hour away the other direction. So it's you can definitely go watch some good lacrosse in some pretty neat atmospheres on the weekends in the summer here, whether you go either way. We always try, obviously, I think Orangeville, I agree with you, Gary, it set the bar of what summer lacrosse should be like. Like they do set a high bar. I think we're competing very close in terms of the atmosphere that we create and on a regular basis. And that's all to the people that are putting in the time over there at the Mohawks and the Thistles now. But it's definitely fun.
Right. Now I want to talk about getting into the NLL. You get drafted by Columbus 28th overall in the 2002 draft. What was the initial feeling of being drafted?
It's funny. I had one phone call prior, like before the draft, and it was from, I believe, Anaheim back in the day. It was like, hey, you've got a phone call. It's the coach of Anaheim. I'm like, oh, Anaheim. They have a lacrosse team in Anaheim. So that kind of is like, okay, well, maybe there is a chance that something might happen. I personally, I was out with a group of friends. There was no specific draft. I think it was all just kind of updated online. After each vote, you kind of hit restart on your computer or refresh on your computer, and that would show you the next kind of person who got drafted. I was out with a bunch of friends that I played lacrosse with, and it made the night a little more exciting. We had a little bit more fun than we probably would have on the average Friday night.
Lacrosse and fun on a Friday night. I'm trying to
imagine
that. I'm having a hard time grasping it.
Now, one of the questions I love asking is, in your first training camp, was it what you expected? Did you have anything?
There was kind of a couple different things. I'm going to say the skill level, yes. The talent that was out there was very high, and that was obviously coming off the junior B thing. So that was definitely impressed me, and is what I expected, is a very intense training camp. The facilities that we used probably didn't impress me, because back then it was like some place in upstate New York that was like a soccer field and had some boards and some no boards. So it was pretty Mickey Mouse in terms of like, I'm trying out for a professional team at the Grimsby Soccer Center. Like, that's where we're doing this one. So to me, that part it didn't make it easier to play, because you're running into a different condition every weekend that you traveled somewhere, and you're not knowing what to expect. But the skill level was definitely what was expected. And we had a whole bunch of young kids that were hungry to make a team, that all were kind of in the same boat of, this is an opportunity. There's not a huge veteran presence. There was only a couple people there that had played a few years in the league. And other than that, it was a dogfight to sticks were flying. I remember it was a battle.
Right. Now, talk about you played for Wayne Colley, you played for Bob Hamley with these teams. Both have been former guests here on the show. Both are friends. Talk about playing for them and what they expected of you.
Yeah. Obviously, throughout the time I got to, Hammer is from Fergus originally, so him and I actually at one point were traveling back and forth to the airport or whatever it was to the games. So I got to know him real well that I didn't as a kid. Like, he wasn't coaching around here, so I didn't have that experience until the NLL, and got to hang out with him. Yeah, it was good. He obviously was there my second year in Columbus, and we vouched for him to hopefully be part of the whole package trade down to Arizona, and that group did agree to that. And so we kind of went as a group rather than trying to split everything up. I think the players vouched for keeping this thing together, and that was good because it brings that experience that Bob has. I think both of them are very good at, you also surround yourself with good people, right? If you get one good coach, it usually means that you're getting many others along the way. Bobby McMahon down in Arizona that was with Bob for a bunch of times. Wayne had probably a little more difficult time because we had a few American coaches at that time that were trying to learn the game as well as Wayne was trying to implement different things, and we were trying to teach. Yeah. So it was probably more of a difficult situation. But considering I played against Wayne when he was with the Green Gales there for all those years, he definitely was probably an influence how I got drafted down to Columbus, because he was part of that behind the scenes movement, what was going on down there. Yeah. So he claims that he was the one who told him to draft me. And I believe the owner back then was Mike Gongus, and he was like, no, I was the guy. I'm like, sure, whatever, just happy to be here, guys. So yeah,
I'll give you a little bit of a funny story.
They've both been around the game a lot, and they definitely bring a lot of knowledge and have been a big part of the whole growth of this sport and continue to.
Right. I'll give you a little bit of a funny story about Wayne, because the jersey you'd mentioned, the old school rock jersey, is about 2009. And, well, it's Matt Taylor's jersey, and it's Wayne's son-in-law.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, there you go.
Yeah, it was the craziest thing when he brought it up to me going, really? Wow.
Funny.
So, talk about a small community.
That's good.
But yeah, I want to get to, because the Columbus team, it wasn't there for very long, but some of the players that you came in with, you're talking about Dan Dawson, Tracy Kluski, Kyle Arbuckle, Derek Suddens, Bill Greer, a little known guy, Mark Stanos, played there briefly.
Yeah, like you look at it, if you put that team on paper, kind of in the prime of all of our NLL careers, it would be a pretty successful lacrosse team. And we were definitely young and hungry, and I think we did turn a lot of heads back then. I do let Doss know every so often that I was drafted ahead of him, just for the sake of numbers every so often. But yeah, Tracy Kluski had been gone, but we had Patty Campbell. Like we had some good. Gaywash Schindler was a first overall pick to that team. He was their first pick, and man, could that kid play. And I'm watching his kid play now, who looks identical to what Gaywas did back in the day. So it's really, when you put those names out on paper, it's pretty funny to say that that was a good lacrosse team that was able to stick around. And a lot of those guys and myself stuck around for a long time in that league, considering where we started.
Right, because I think the last one that retired from that team was Dawson. When he retired,
yeah, and Derek Suddens wasn't much behind him. Like he was the kind of Iron Man there for long. He was traveling to Edmonton. I'm like, Derek, how are you still doing this? But yeah, good on them.
It's funny because I inherited Bill Fox's VHS collection a number of years ago. I think during COVID, I went and picked it all up, and all the retro games. And there's a bunch of Columbus Sharks games on there. One with State House in there. I'm sure if you look carefully, you'll find yourself in a few of those games. It's probably 80 or 90 of them. I've got them up on the All Across All the Time YouTube page.
I think I did watch. There was one Columbus versus Philly. I think I pulled up before, and I think I scored my only backhand goal in one of the games that you put out. Like, I think it was my only backhander I ever took, and it was I was fortunate enough, but I'm like, wow, that didn't showed my kids that I do it all the time, right?
The cat's out of the bag. Get things up here that they're watching. So
yeah.
But yeah, every month or so, I put a couple of more games up because there's a lot of tapes I'm still sitting on over here.
It's a good collection. Yeah,
convert them and get them up.
Foxy, I think
it's also fun to watch now because it's also fun because a lot of the guys who you're seeing as coaches now is a great way to introduce it to people to go, no, here where they were in the heyday, and they're not just suits behind the bench.
No, it's actually, I've coached minor lacrosse as well now, and it's pretty incredible how many past players or people that I played against. It's every bench you go to now. So the people, whatever happened to this era, seem to really give back now too, right? It's not like they just played and they kind of rode off into the sunset. Every one of them is involved in a minor sports organization at the track. Like there's the junior programs. I know Billy Greer and the Doss was there with the Burlington team. Like these guys are still giving back after putting 20 years in playing and traveling the world and missing time with their families. So I always respect that angle of what seemed to happen of that group and that genre of players, trying to rub that off on the young kids that are getting out of junior now. Like, it's how often do you hear, I'm done junior, so I'm probably done lacrosse. Well, I thought that too, but now I'm 25 years plus of additional lacrosse in some areas. So trying to get these kids linked into coaching, helping on a team, and just feeling what it actually feels really good to give back, right? And then see the reaction of kids, knowing that they were striving to be you the year before in junior or senior or whatever that was. So, yeah.
A lot of the NLL teams now, when they're getting their franchises, are also starting grassroots because we've neglected the grassroots thing. We've always put money into the juniors, and everybody who's just wanted to play house league and wanted to do that thing and never had that in their mind of being a professional lacrosse player kind of got left in the dark and kind of forgotten about. And we're going back now, and a lot of teams have put their own players to have grassroots programs. I think Saskatchewan was really spearheaded this one, and it really grew in wildfire. And the team saw if they can get kids interested, well, that's not one ticket, that's 5 tickets they can sell because everybody's
definitely spin off. Yeah. And they do a lot more of those game day camps now. Like you see them, we do them once a year, I think back. Now you see them happening at each of those, each of the NLL games, whether they're killing the afternoon, they already got the floor rented. experience of getting in these big arenas for these kids and just looking around, running around the turf during the day when it's rented for. It's already rented and paid for, so why not? And then, like you said, not one of those people come. Usually the family comes to the nighttime game, kind of cap off the day. So, and yeah, Oakville, obviously Jamie in Oakville there at the Rock has went above and beyond, just built an arena, and they'll come. And it's really proven that there is that demand out there. And there are kids from 3 years old you see in that rink every night, right up through to the Masters League at night. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about your time in Minnesota. You know, you talked about moving out to Arizona, and you get traded to Minnesota. Had a couple of seasons with them. Talk about playing for the Arladas, and this back in St. Paul, and that organization.
Actually, I'd say the Minnesota. We played at the XL Energy Center there in St. Paul, Minnesota. Probably one of my favorite arenas to play in. Like it was one of, actually, we were getting, by the time I left, they were starting to gain a crowd. I think they stayed in Minnesota for maybe 2 or 3 years after I had left Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
But when they moved to Georgia, they were getting 7,000 or 8,000 people to a game in Minnesota. And Minnesota, St. Paul is very much like a Canadian city, right? Big on hockey, love their contact sports, and people in the crowd loved every minute of it. So my time in Minnesota, it was another good group of guys that like you still see around the arenas, like Brock Boyles, the Ryan Cousins. Like we had another good team. Nick Patterson, I believe, played net the one year, and he stole a year of just unbelievable goaltending. Like this kid was born different that year, and whatever happened. So yeah, my time in Minnesota was cold. It went from the hottest town, the hottest place to play, to the coldest. And that was the joke when I was getting traded. They're like, yeah, good luck up north next year. I'm like, okay. But my connection with actually the Arladas, I didn't get to meet them or have very much experience like interacting with the ownership group. We had Marty O'Neill was the big spearhead of the GM back then and coach. We had some pretty good coaches again. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed Minnesota as a city. It was a lot of fun. For the after kind of party was good, and it was a great city. Like I say, our crowd was getting good. Once they had learned the sport, they were starting to pick up new things, and more people started coming, and they were having more game day games of box lacrosse, which was kind of neat to watch as well at that point.
Right. Now you get traded to Toronto. You talked about you coming over here, and it added years to your career. But you came in a really strange time, because you came, I guess it was the Klopfer era, and it was the technical rebuild from all the championships.
Yeah, we definitely struggled. Go ahead, you keep that.
There were some interesting years from 2006 to 2009 in this city. But then Jamie buys the team from the Waters Group, and overnight it makes a shift. He puts in Troy and Terry as coaches. He brings Colin back. And of course, you and Colin had a memorable relationship on the floor. Colin's been on record as saying that every time he passed you the ball, he expected it to be in the net.
Oh, he let me know that too. Yeah, no, he's first to let me know that too. I can't say I've ever played with a guy that you feel more pressure from, but Colin and I had a really good relationship and still do. And our connection was, everyone kept asking me, how long you guys played together? When did you guys play together before? And I'm like, we haven't. Like, this is just kind of was like a match made in heaven. And as Colin said, it made him better because we were getting results from what was going on, and he made me a hell of a lot better too. So kind of the connection worked both ways. He liked having the ball. I didn't like having the ball. So I kind of took the role and ran with that for as long as I could. So, well, yeah, like you say, when Jamie bought it and brought Colin back, he definitely came in with energy and excitement, and not attitude, but like the need to win, right? We are here to win, and that's what we are here to do. And no matter what it takes, that's what we have to do. So it obviously worked. His leadership speaks for itself on his results. I think it's pretty easy to look at his hands and see how many rings are on his fingers. There's a reason for that. And so I was fortunate enough to have that opportunity. I think I had him and Josh Sanderson the one year on the left side. Right. Tell me that doesn't make life nice for an off-ball righty player. Yeah. Two of the best ball feeders in the game, right?
Well, see, I showed you this picture off air, and it's a typical Kasey.
Wasn't in there very long. You actually caught me with the ball on my stick. That's unusual.
Yeah, not bad, eh? Pretty good
Yeah.
catch. In that era, though, but the fun and the fan base returned, which meant the energy returned into the arena, and it began looking a lot like the Maple Leaf Gardens years, and that kind of energy was at every single game.
Yeah, and that energy obviously goes right onto the floor, right? When people have that energy and that kind of interest in what's going on, and knowing that there's something special happening on the floor, and it kind of builds that excitement in the crowd, that electrifies you as a player. Like walking out when you have 8,000 people already there and it's warm up still, and you're like, we're still an hour away from the game and it's just trying to get stretched out here. But that, I definitely, like you say, I came in at an era where it was real quiet and very gloom when you walked into that arena, to all of a sudden new ownership, new excitement. It changed like overnight. It was like,
yeah.
I think we went to the finals that very first year, that whole changeover. I think we went right to the NLL finals and lost out in Washington.
Yeah, and should have won that one, actually. You guys were up after 3, and there was that weird empty net goal at the end of the third that changed everything around.
Don't remind me.
It was weird. It was just a weird time. I know. But that year also, was the introduction of Garrett Billings and Stefan LeBlanc, just showing that first rounders can't turn this thing around, and to mix in with all you guys, and it was great. And every game was exciting. The line brawl comes to mind against Boston.
That was a fun one.
Dawes going after Colin, and then everybody going.
I don't know if I would say that was fully Dawes going after Colin. Colin was already had his gloves off, I think, before Paulie came near him. So they were laughing, I think, the whole time they were throwing punches. But that was definitely that was like the first quarter, I think it was, and we played the rest of the game with like 12 players, and like I was running out the D door at one point, which should never happen in a junior game, let alone an NLL game.
It was interesting. I remember bringing people over. That was their first kick at seeing live lacrosse, and they're looking at me going, "This happens all the time."
That's a good one to come to.
Sure.
I do want to run back to what you said. You said bringing in these first round draft picks like Steph and Garrett. You kind of look back at it, and it's like we were all totally different players, right? So it's not like we have 5 shooters that are coming in that want to rip that ball. There's Colin's a playmaker. Garrett can play make from the right side and feed balls that you like back to the lefties. Steph LeBlanc's a power forward that would just drive you right to the net, and myself just kind of waiting in the weeds for whatever's left over that I would take. So to me, that as soon as you kind of put that in perspective, it brought that up. And like, it's 5 different style of players that to me is tough to stop.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Then comes the 2011 season, the magic one.
Good one.
Yeah. And you guys do break through and win the cup. Now, the thing that stands out the most to me, of course, is after you guys win the cup, and you guys all gave us a heart attack. We thought we were going to party all afternoon. You jump out to a big lead, you get a couple of goals in the first, and then all of a sudden it's 7-6 was the final.
It came down to the last, and then Cam Woods, I remember, picked up a loose ball and was running up and got stripped, and then they called a timeout. I'm like, they get another chance at this, and we're just. When you're on the bench and you experienced the year before of how the wheels fell off, and you just you were just wishing, don't put this in your head. Don't think anything about last year. Let's get through these last 45 seconds. And sure enough, I think it was Lewis Ratcliffe that got stripped, and we ended up running down and killing the time. Yeah, that was an exciting. I remember it to the T of exactly how it all shook out.
Yeah, I actually have the last 10 seconds on my YouTube page.
Yeah,
so if you're interested, you can go to my personal one, and it's just nuts in there. But the trophies gets awarded to you guys, and Colin gives it to you and Cam.
Yeah,
to be the first guys to hoist.
That's a pretty special. That's a pretty special moment. Yeah. That's again comes back to the leadership quality that not many people would think of that at that time in that moment. Knowing that Cam and I had put in many, many years at that point and never got to touch it or basically look at it. We had it flashed in front of us and never had that opportunity to hoist it. So to me, that was obviously, it was on the front page of the Toronto Sun the next day of the 2 of us with the cup. So it's a memory that lasts forever. And with that comes with a whole bunch of respect for a guy that played the game like that. And that's knowing, like I say, who thinks of that when you just won the championship cup and you're itching to get your hands on that hardware? And no, do you know what? I don't want it. You're going to pass it to these two guys that have waited a lot longer than I have. So yeah, utmost respect for that play.
Yeah, no, I thought that was an absolute class move. Let's talk a little bit about Jamie, because we hear all about he's in the papers here and this and GM or whatever. Talk about Jamie and what he means to lacrosse and to the city of Toronto or Hamilton or wherever the team is at the moment, and just his him purchasing the team and really saving that team.
Yeah, I agree 100% that happened. Obviously, I didn't know Jamie before all that happened. Got to know him real well. He traveled with the team for every game function. He was probably one that cares about the game but never played. You know what I mean? Like he knew that there was something special, and he loved the game of lacrosse. He took a huge chance on buying this professional lacrosse team, as I think as advertised back then. He was a poker player. It's like, who's the poker player buying the but Jamie also studied and brought in, like, obviously he brought in Terry and Troy. He would study those guys to say, what are they doing? How are they handling these situations? Like, he was involved in it all, but gave them the ability to run with their professional abilities. So to me, it's he now, with what he's continuing to do to grow the game, is changing the level of the game completely. Kids around Ontario right now are so fortunate that they play lacrosse year round because some guy loves lacrosse a lot and bought a professional team and built an arena in their backyard. Like, not many people have that story and a guy that's willing to give you whatever you need to make you successful, right? Jamie came in and he made you so comfortable. And what do you guys need? What do we need to be successful? Is it equipment? Is it, we need better travel to the game? We need this. Oh, we need a private jet because we don't want to be driving the bus through the night to the next game. Then you be on a private thing to Philly to get to your next game. So he definitely, I say to a lot of kids nowadays, they don't know what the real lacrosse was like back when we got on a bus to Columbus every weekend and drove 13 hours there and 13 hours home and went to school and then worked part-time. And these kids that are, oh yeah, well, hey, we had a tough flight. I got laid over. And I'm like, you don't know what a layover is like. So we drove by. I remember we were going to Albany, and the Albany team was on the bus in front of us. And it had a flat tire. We just right by them. They probably were there for hours trying to get a flat tire fixed on the side of the road. So Jamie definitely, to me, turned a professional to a real professional lacrosse team. And that's what he brought. He brought professionalism, as well as this is a professional team. You guys are going to be treated like professionals. And that goes to show what happens with the product on the floor too. People want to be there. People want to be playing. When I first came to Toronto, not everyone was wanting to play in Toronto when I was first brought in. So he definitely did and still continues to do a fantastic job. Jamie still keeps in contact with a bunch of the old players. I still get messages every so often. I try to make a point of going to see him at every game that I go to. So he definitely still treats us like we're still part of that team. And again, another very respectful person in the industry. So yeah, I like Jamie a lot. Had a lot of great experiences and good times with Jamie.
Yeah, Gary, tell me a little bit about the track. You know, when you talk about Jamie, you have to talk about the track. You can't forget about that. Were you around when it started? I'd like you to tell that story, because we always talk about the track and we hint around at how important a place it is. It's in Oakville, but it serves the northern U.S. and eastern Canada, or at least southwestern.
Yeah. To me, Jamie is the kind of guy. He probably got sick of driving to Six Nations for Tuesday night practices, right? So we all drove to Six Nations for years to Hagersville there for the ILA arena and had practices there. And I think Jamie was just he's like, why are we driving over here when we could have one in our own backyard? And then he took it when he first built the track. And so the track is a 2-pad facility. He built the one with just concrete because he played in a ball hockey league. So he moved his ball hockey league, who had terrible times, over to hey, just come to my facility. We'll move the ball hockey program here and we'll play ball hockey on one side, or concrete. You still play lacrosse, but and just built this state-of-the-art facility that now hosts thousands of lacrosse players year-round. So they're both turf now at that facility. My kids definitely have taken part of some of the track programming, and I try to help out when I can. But it's a lacrosse specific facility, and I don't know, Frank, how many of those you could say Brampton Memorial's kind of become that now, but is of obviously much older to date. But there's not many the places that can say they have an arena that is lacrosse year round. Obviously, they sprinkle in some other filler stuff, but I think that stuff's slowly even getting pushed out because the demand for the lacrosse programs is growing still, and they just kind of keep growing, which is great.
Yeah, the reason I mentioned that is, we went through the pandemic, right? And it was almost, lacrosse survived because of the track, and that's one thing you can talk about that. And the other thing you can talk about is how many NLL teams practice at the track.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how many. I don't know how many.
That was a facetious question.
Buffalo.
Do they?
A number of them. Halifax. Anybody who has a big sort of Ontario base, they have their practices on one day of the week there. So it's amazing.
And every training camp seems to start there with all the facilities have the doctor capabilities. So they have a great setup that you are doing your physicals and your training. There's a gym. Excuse me. So it's definitely set up to just be the benefactor of that program, that league, and the NLL has been taking advantage of it like they should. I think it's made that product even better too.
I'll add one superlative to what you added, and that is that it doesn't matter how old you are or what level you play, you end up at the track. That was my point anyway.
You are, 3 to, like I said earlier, the master's program is right. I just seen a bunch of pictures online and was talking to a guy last night that still plays in the master's program. And it doesn't end. And I'm sure there's a bunch of older guys that get out there at times where you're not on film.
So is it safe to say that Jamie loves lacrosse? I mean, is it safe? Can we say that?
Without he's kind of given a little bit of a risk towards lacrosse. Yeah, a little investment towards it, I'd say.
Well,
Thank you, Jamie.
Well, the other thing that nobody seems to remember is that one of the reasons why the crowd picked up once he bought the team was out of pocket. He got TSN to cover all the games, all the Rock games, because nobody else was doing it, and it was off.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember the score was originally long time ago. It was on the score, and you'd still have the ticker across the bottom. You could barely see what was actually going on. And Jamie came in and he's like, "This needs to be on TV," and took that upon himself as an owner of that team. And no one else was doing that. I'm sure some other small town American cities were doing, like the local news would broadcast the odd game. Yeah. But no, Jamie put it on a national broadcast and took it to the next level, like he did everything else.
And like the I forgot about that. Well. Then there's the Backleys that have been there for I can't remember when they weren't involved in sponsoring that team.
Yeah, I think obviously the Backley Construction built that arena, the track, and obviously good friends and has worked with Jamie through developments, I think, in the past and his family. And they were very invested. They gave back to the team for every year was the Backley Construction halftime show and everything else seemed to be through Backley Construction, which is awesome.
Well, it segues us into the State of the Union where we are now. Do you see this morphing into a full-time gig now for the players?
I really hope it does. We've been saying that, Gary, since I was my first year in the league. Is this going to be a full-time gig? Do I think it will be? Yes, I do. I think it will. I think they're definitely going down the right path. They're getting good markets, and it seems that the fan base is constantly growing. And you look at the Saskatchewan, the Halifax, like Buffalo is obviously taking over like no other right now because winning does bring people, and we've experienced that, like our discussions earlier. Yeah. So I like how they're being more selective. When I first came in the league, it was like, oh, there's a new team this year. Nope, that one's gone. Next, it was just constantly flip-flopping of improper ownership groups. So they made that commitment to do some more research and make sure this investor or that those owners are there for longer than I'm just here for a business write-off for the year that might help me in my other businesses. So to me, the other part that makes it that I think it will be, I just think the athleticism in these kids and the effort they're putting in year round. I'm going to say there's a lot more kids now playing that don't work other than, even though they might not be making full-time wages, they're finding alternate ways, but that gives them more time to train. And like I said, the athletes that are coming through this sport, and I think with a whole bunch of Americans are starting to take over, not take over, but come in and be very effective, not just an American player on the team. They are becoming key players on some of these teams. And I think that's a key thing in the growth of that national kind of worldwide part of the sport. And that brings some more funding to those American teams that might get more broadcasts, because the PLL has obviously helped the names of those players come back that are coming into the NLL as well. So Frank, I hope they do make it a full-time gig. Are they going to make millions? I don't think so at this point. I do hope at some point it does, though. I think the product would be even that much better if these people could dedicate more than 3 months of their life to that sport specifically. I think they're very fortunate that all these kids still play summer ball and train and do all that like all summer, because that's a big part of, if you just kind of left it for the short period of what this season is, your quality wouldn't be nearly. If they come home and you compete year round, essentially you're playing 2 seasons every year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go get banged up in the summer, take a month off. I'm going to go get banged up all winter, take a month off. And it's a constant. So in my 16 years of additional playing, really it was like 32 seasons is what you play.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, the thing nowadays that you didn't have when you were playing was we have the Arena Lacrosse League now. So if you don't make it, or if you're on the practice squad, you can get your reps in so that you're ready in case there's an injury. And of course, all summer long, we've got that going on as well. But there's just so many things. You have the prep schools as well that you guys didn't have. Things like the Hill out in Vancouver. Crowley's got his thing. Shatler's got his thing in Saskatchewan. In Calgary, they've got it. In the U.S., they've got it. Marichek's got his.
You're right. It's not you get cut and my career's over. Like, I had my opportunity, now I'm done. Right? There was nothing or if you sat there all winter and waited for the next season, you're already probably beyond capable of playing because you haven't done anything in that time. So yeah, people starting up those leagues have been a great feeder system, exactly what they were built for. Mm-hmm. And I think they've embraced that, which has been really good, that it's not, we're fighting to try to take over the NLL. We're embracing that. We're giving these kids up to another many more years an opportunity to play lacrosse, which would normally be done at the age of 21 or whenever you age out of junior.
Right. Just briefly before we go, we only got a couple of minutes left. Your thoughts on lacrosse going into the Olympics and what you think of sixes?
There it is.
Do you want my true opinion, or do you know?
That's okay. The truth, we can handle the truth.
No, I don't love it. And the only part I don't like about it is the unfairness to the goalies, right? Like there's not very many. You win a game by having 2 stops in a game, and that's what usually is enough that it keeps going back and forth so fast, and it's usually goal. And if you get a stop, then that's probably going to win you a game. I think somehow they should make it where it's a little more fair to the goalies and make it a little more difficult to score. Because I think people are so talented that they are scoring at will. And with not being able to lay a guy out or a 6-foot stick that gives you a little bit more of that advantage, like in the normal field game. So I like it that it's fast, that a goalie just grabs it, picks it up. Do I love that? No, I don't love it, but I get why they're doing it. So you definitely have to be on your toes. You have to be rolling, and you have to be in shape, because there's only 12 bodies, I think, at your bench. Yep. And those guys that play in the NLL are used to playing with 16 or 17. You need to be in shape because it's a big field. So yeah, I do like it. I'm thrilled that it's going to get the exposure of the Olympics. I think that's going to only help. Does it continue? I don't know. I don't know what the next step is, but I'm really excited, and I hope it goes over very successfully here in 2028.
Well, I want to thank you. That was a quick hour.
Really was quick.
Because it's great to go and relive some of the past with you. It's great seeing you again, because it's been a while. And I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys. And I'm sure hopefully to make it down to your probably every game. I'm sure Gary down in Mississauga now. We haven't schedules haven't permitted right now, but hopefully it's going to happen here soon, that hockey settles out with my kids and we can slip down and grab a game. But I definitely watch every game on TV when we're at home. It's a Friday, Saturday night lacrosse at our house after everything settles down. The kids know that myself and them and my wife will probably be sitting down watching some lacrosse of some sort. So,
well,
still trying to keep up on it.
Let me know, and I'll meet you up in the lounge here. I'll buy you a beer.
Sounds like a deal to me. Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah,
Kasey, thanks for doing this. Gary, as usual, thanks for doing this. We'll see you next time. Yeah, we'll have to continue this conversation somewhere down the road, Kasey. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure meeting you, Frank.
Pleasure meeting you too. Okay, for Kasey, Gary, I'm Frank, and thank you for watching Lacrosse Talk. Of course, live here Thursdays at 4 p.m. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Lacrosse Talk, news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Don't forget to pick up a stick. Once you pick it up, you can't put it down.